Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of Binary Life, a channel that teaches new developers how to code by solving algorithm problems so that you can see how the thinking process comes to life. So today we're going to solve find the stray number. So you are given an odd length array of integers. Here, this is 3 elements, and here this is odd 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So there are 7 numbers here. Now, find the exception. Like here, the exception is 2. That appears just once. The same thing here, the exception is 3. So how do we do that? Well, there are many approaches to that, but my solution will be to find the two numbers that make up this array. For now, like for this second example, we have 17 and 3, and then we will take each number and count the number of times they are inside. If it's more than 1, then the other one. If it's just one occurrence, then that's the odd number. And we'll try to make sure to not count at the end so that we can limit the loop. For example, if you meet 17 2 times, you just need to come out of your loop because it's already proved that it's not the exception. So how do I do to get the two distinguished numbers that make up the array? Is to convert into a set. What do I mean? So imagine I have this array. Let me copy this array here. Let me just copy this. I'll increase the size of. Let's go to the node console. Alright, so if I have an array that's made up of this, and if I have a set, that if I say new set and I convert the array, our set becomes this 17 and 3. Now if I create a new array, like array 2, I'm going to create an array from the set. Basically, I'm converting the set to an array. That's how we do it. Now array 2 becomes this. So what am I saying? Let's remove this return here. I'm going to create a set. Let's call it my set, which will be this new set of the numbers. That's the original array. And then my new array, let's just call it array 2, or let's just call it my two numbers. The two numbers will be equal to, I'm going to convert back my set to an array. So I'm going to create an array from my set. So that's the first step. The first step was just to get the two numbers that make up the array. Now I'm going to take, for this particular example, take 17 and loop through this array and see if 17 appears more than one time. So I'm going to create a count variable and initialize it to 0, and I'm going to do a for loop for I of I'm going to loop through the original numbers. Yeah, I'll look through the original numbers. Oops, there's an error. Alright, I loop through the original numbers. Now if I is the same thing as I'm looping, this is a looping variable. Let me just call it, well, the looping variable is I. Let's leave it like that. So if this looping variable is equal to the first number of our array, the first number of our two distinguished numbers, which is this, yep, of 0 as the first number. Sorry, I'm still adapting to my keyboard. Right, So while I'm looping, I'm counting the number of times this first number appears, and if it's equal to that, I'm going to increment this. So let's just copy this, and I'm going to put +1, and I'm going to check if counts it's greater than 1, then I'll just exit the loop. I'll just break out of the loop. And what do we have here? So I can just do some console log so that we can check where we are. I'm going to console.log the count. Let's put like this so that it makes some sense. And I'm also going to console log these two numbers here, and let's test. Okay, for that to happen, we need to console log the original array too. I'll just increase the size of this thing. Right, so let's console log numbers. Okay, let's test the code. So this is the original array here, and when we depict the two numbers that make up this array, we have 1 and 2. Now, how many times do we have the first number? We have it 2 times. We just said when it's more than 2, we can break out of the loop, so that's okay. All right, so which means this work, the counting works. All right, what about if I do the counting for the second number, which is this 2 here? What do we have? Right, the 2 occurs just 1 time. Okay, so I'm going to do a verification based on count. Now, if count is greater than 1, then I'm going to return if it's greater than 1. So let's come back to the original count 0. So I'm going to count the first number of these two. These are our 2 numbers here. I'm going to count just the first one. That's why I put 0 here. So if it's greater than 1, for this case it's greater than 1. Let's run it again so that you can see. I'm coming to this return. I'm coming back to it. Let's remove this. Okay, yeah, that's because I removed the console log. I just wondered why I'm coding. You can see the display, and the explanation will be better. So I'm going to console log again, count. Right, like I was saying, this is the original array, and these are the 2 numbers that make up the original array. So I'm going to count the first one. This is the first one, just this one here. It appears twice. Anyway, it appears more than once, because I said when it's more than 1, we don't need to continue the counting, so that we don't waste processor cycles. So I'm going to do a final check. Now, if the count is greater than 1, that means this is not the exception. So I'm going to return the other number, and the other number is 1 here. Else I'm just going to return the first number then. So if I run the code, this is what I get. I hope you understand this. Let's come back here so that we can see the console logs. Well, this was the only test that was available, so I'm going to attempt it on the bigger tests. Yeah, so let's come here. This one is even short. I'm looking for a very long array. Yeah, something like this. Right, something like this is a very long array here. Numbers is made up of multiple undefined, and there is one number that is 6724. That's the exception. So the two numbers that make up that array is this. Now when I count the first one undefined, it appears more than once. That's why we have count 2. Count will always stop at 2 because we break out of the loop so that we don't keep counting the rest of the numbers. Right, and if it's more than 1, like for this case it's more than 1, it means the exception is this one. That's why we return the other number. If it was 1 completely, it means it's the exception. That's why we return the original number that we counted. So I hope this is very easy to understand. I'm going to remove the console log so that we can have a clean code. I'll remove this one. Right, and I can even combine this into one. And how do I need to do that? I just need to take this, and it replaces my set here, and I'm going to remove this. The end goal is to get our two numbers, our two non-identical numbers, right? And I can even get rid of this curly brace, since the if is made up of just one sentence, and bring it to one line. That's it. And semicolons, and it's optional in JavaScript, lucky for us. So I can remove this one. Okay, I can even put a ternary operator here, but let's leave it at that. All right, so let's test again the code. It works, and let's attempt it passes, and let's submit. And let's see what others have. This is actually very intelligent. I think he takes the index of, oh, this is a for loop. I don't know if I can quite get it. So if he loops the original numbers, and then if the index of one number is the same like the index of the last, let's just leave it at that. I don't think I understand it. Okay, he checks the first, he checks a number and checks the index of the last one. If he finds a double, if they are equal, it means it's double. Let's see. I don't think I understand it. Let's just leave it at that. All right. This one, most people will use this solution, but this is not optimal because the sorting takes a lot of processor time to sort all the numbers. Imagine if the array is very long, you're going to waste time in sorting just for you to compare the first and the second. It works, but this is very, very costly. I think that's what they're commenting here. Now, for us to understand this code, I think it looks the same like the first one. We need to understand last index of, what does it mean? If I come to an array like this, like I still have my array here like this. So if I do array dot last index of 2, was that? We get -1. Last index of 3, we get 2. What does that mean? Let's do a search on Google. What's last index of in JavaScript? All right, last index of JavaScript. Giving one argument, the substring is searched for, searches the entire calling string and returns the index of the last occurrence. All right, I see. That makes sense. So let's come back here. So let's come back here. So we have array like this. If I do array dot the last index of what's the last index of 3? The last index of 3 is 2. 2 is, that's the last time we'll see 3 in this array. We have 0, 1, 2, so it's at index 2. But if we do it for 17, the last 17 is at the 6th index. That's what this means. So let's come back to this algorithm here. Let's look at the one that wrote it in one line now. So if the index of this number is the same as the last index, that means that's the exception. Like here, the index of 3 is the same thing as the last index. Since it's the exception, it's gonna be the same index that it will occur all the time. It will always be 2 for this case. So that's the exception. All right, I think I get this algorithm now. So that is the same thing for the first one. Yeah, I think this is quite fast. I think it's faster than the one we wrote. This should be the best solution, because once it starts the loop, it's going to check for the first index, for this case 17, and if that's the last index, I don't know if it's quite fast, because for you to get the last index you need to look through the whole array. I'm going to say it's like about the same intensity and processor needed for the one we wrote our algorithm and this one. It's about the same thing, because this last index of is going to go through the whole array just to get the last index. That's some calculation going on in the background. I'm going to stop at that. Right, I think our algorithm wasn't that bad, and I'm going to stop here for that and see you in another coding challenge. And thanks for viewing, and don't forget to subscribe.